So, Mr. Osawa, everything alright? The line went dead. Technically, that's incorrect, Stanley muttered. It's not the virus they're after, it's his daughter Hitomi who's carrying the antiviral. I'm gonna see if I change my response over here. Is that gonna make him not turn himself in? Let's see. It's Hitomi. Osawa remains silent. Mr. Osawa, is everything alright? Okay, so the line still goes dead there. Okay, fine. So that doesn't change anything. Put away his phone. Yeah. Now it was clear why the criminals were after Hitomi. He saw an uneasy look on Stanley's face. Something on your mind? Kano asked. Stanley responded with a question of his own. If Hitomi was carrying the antiviral, how were the criminals planning on getting it from her? Kano thought for a moment. Well, taking her by force at the Scramble posed too high a risk, he said. There were nearly 100 detectives there, and they must have guessed there would be. That's why they devised the attaché case relay. They wanted to abduct Hitomi somewhere away from the Dragnet's notice. This is the plan that all the signs seem to suggest. But still, he added, I wonder how they managed to lead her away from police protection. A look of revelation crossed Stanley's face. All they need to do is convince her to go of her own accord. But how? Kano asked. And then it came to him. He thought back to Hitomi's initial contact with Tariq al-Karawan. Just before he'd taken the attaché case from her, the two had a brief conversation. It was possible al-Karawan had given Hitomi some form of instruction then. Yeah, because he was like, you need to go to the blue van to get your sister, or whatever. I guess we're back to tracking down al-Karawan again, huh? Kano could tell from the look in Stanley's eyes that he was on the verge of saying something. Probably some remark about how Tateno had allowed al-Karawan to run free. Right now, Kano wasn't going to argue the point. After this case was resolved, he'd discover what Tateno's real motives were. Once he did, Stanley would eat his words. In the meantime, can't just wander around looking without any leads, he said. Until we get more intel, let's see what we can do with the security cameras back at the precinct. Numerous monitors shone down on the pair as they entered the Shibuya precinct's surveillance room. Each showed an array of faces of individuals somewhere in Shibuya. Kano asked one of the operators to pull up al-Karawan's data on screen. By selecting each of the faces on the monitors in turn, they could run comparisons to determine if anyone among them was al-Karawan. Born in 1976. One by one, the operator made his way through the faces. Assuming their target was still in Shibuya, there was a high likelihood they'll find him. But the minutes ticked past and there was still no sign of him. Kano's tone grew more and more impatient as he directed the operator's search. Just calm down, Stanley said. He set a hand on Kano's shoulder. You keep wasting your energy when you don't need to. That's just how I do things, Kano replied. I'm energetic because I care. He pointed out another face of the operator. Well, you're setting yourself up for a short life. With a sigh, Stanley sank into a nearby chair. My brother was like you. Oh my gosh, we're getting backstory. From Stanley. The American spoke so quietly that his words were barely audible. 10 minutes later, no, I want more Stanley backstory. A man clad in black appeared on one of the monitors. The operator lined up his cursor. The comparison check confirmed that it was al-Karawan. Yes! Kano hissed, pumping his fist. Yes! It appeared that their core was simply walking around town, calm and composed. Kano radioed in al-Karawan's location to Kuze. All units intercept the suspect on the double, Kuze ordered. Kano will provide guidance using surveillance monitors. They saw al-Karawan stop in front of a cigarette vending machine. Was he waiting for someone? Sasayama reporting, I've got eyes on the mutt. Mutt. Perpetrator. Hook. To put someone in cuffs. Dipper. Pickpocket. Once. Outstanding warrants. Hanged paper to write multiple citations. And other traditional police jargon. Thank you, game. Kano's partner had evidently been nearby. I'm making the arrest, he said. There was a note of courage in Sasayama's voice. He came into view on the monitor, walking casually. There he is. At some point, he ditched his anime nerd costume for a street dancer's getup. Didn't appear that al-Karawan had noticed him yet. Bit by bit, Sasayama closed the distance. Not much further now. Kano's hand balled into a fist as he watched. And then something unexpected happened. Another man came running into view, right in the middle of the monitor. Teru Toyama. Oh no! Not Toyama. Well, not him. While searching for Hana at Shibuya Jijo, he was located by a duo of debt collectors and fled the scene. Hana left Jijo to find him and ran into him here in Mario Macho. The pair are heading towards Koendori, trying to find a place to hide. Oh no. This guy just keeps running into everyone at the wrong times. This poor man. There was no sound, but they could see the newcomer shouting something. As Alcarwan turned to look at the man, Sasayama launched himself like a bullet from a gun. In an instant, Detective and Perp were locked into a violent scuffle right there on the street. Kana swallowed a lump in his throat as he watched the struggle unfold. Earlier in the day, Alcarwan had done a number on Sasayama, but this time the detective had the upper hand. He got a grip on Alcarwan's neck and kneed him repeatedly. Alcarwan tried desperately to bring Sasayama to the ground, but Sasayama braced himself and avoided the takedown. Then he shifted his stance and took Alcarwan to the pavement with a spectacular hip throw. Dang. Yes! Kana clapped his hands together in excitement. Catching the perp in a scarf hold, Sasayama got out his handcuffs. A technique in judo involves wrapping an arm around the opponent's neck while performing an upper body pin. Stanley, we should head to the scene, Kana said. He looked away from the monitor for a mere moment, and when he looked back, Sasayama had released his hold and crumbled to the ground. What? Pat Kana stared at the image of his friend. Oh my god! There was something jutting from Sasayama's abdomen. Zoom in! Kana cried frantically. The camera closed in on Sasayama. Now Kana could see exactly what he'd feared. Sasayama had been stabbed in the gut, blood pooled on the pavement around him. Kana screamed, Sasayama! The camera showed several other detectives arriving at the scene, capturing Alcarwan before he could escape, but Sasayama lay motionless. The pool of blood around him spread further and further across the pavement. Unable to look any longer, Kana rushed from the surveillance room. Oh no! Please tell me it's a bad end. No! Don't give me a to be continued! You can't just kill Sasayama! You jerks! So... Okay, so what do we do over here? Oh no, we're not at the bad end anymore because we said Hitomi instead. Okay, cool. So we did fix this. What? Yeah, so... what are you talking about? The antiviral research was top secret. How did some detective? Yeah, Osawa was bewildered. I'm the one asking questions. Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter Hitomi? I'm not sure I understand the question. I know what the syndicate is really after, Mr. Osawa. Osawa's mind went blank and he heard what Kana said next. He could give no reply. Mr. Osawa? The detective continued after a moment. Is everything all right? Without really thinking, Osawa hung up. Hopefully it's different because we said Hitomi. Osawa staggered out of the living room. We needed to be alone. To his surprise, Kajiwara didn't try to stop him. This is different. Awesome. Shutting his study door behind him, he dropped into a sofa and then grabbed 3 times his normal dosage of stomach pills. That's not safe. There was no water in the room, so he had to swallow them dry. Detective Kano's words echoed in his mind. I know what the syndicate is really after, Mr. Osawa. It's Hitomi. There was only one reason they could be after Hitomi. He broke out in a cold sweat as he began to understand what this kidnapping was really about. It all started 6 days earlier. It was April 22nd. Osawa had just returned from the United States the day before. He was in the midst of the same routine at work, the General Research Lab. In the midst of some routine at work at the General Research Lab when his cell phone rang. The LCD display showed an unlisted caller. With some hesitation, Osawa picked up. Hello? Is this Kenji Osawa? The caller was using a voice modulator. The type of device or software used to make one's voice sound different. Changing a voice to the point of making a voice print or tone analysis impossible presents a major challenge. To be able to do so in real time requires major financial and technological resources. Osawa raised an eyebrow. Yes? Go and analyze Hitomi's blood. Her blood? If you don't, she's going to die. With that, the caller hung up. There was intensity behind this that made Osawa sure it wasn't just some sort of prank call. He had Hitomi come into the lab ASAP. He told Hitomi he wanted a sample of her blood for an experiment. She agreed, suspecting nothing. He placed some of the blood he'd drawn onto a glass slide, then adds some fluorescein, a type of fluorescent dye. Fluorescein, a yellow-green liquid, a type of fluorescent dye chiefly used in preparing specimens for viewing under a fluorescent microscope. But it has other uses as well, such as diagnostic reagent administered in eye exams. Its highest volume is used on St. Patrick's Day when massive amounts of fluorescein are used to dye the Chicago River green. I've seen that before, it's crazy. Fluorescent dye, a type of dye that causes the dyed substance to emit higher wavelength fluorescent light when illuminated with certain other types of light. Such dyes can reveal fine details when used on specimens viewing through a fluorescent microscope. Interesting. Placing the slide under a fluorescence microscope, he took a look. It can't be. Osawa could hardly believe his eyes. Wriggling under the microscope was the Grim Reaper's sickle itself. There was no mistaking it. Hitomi was infected with the Uwa virus. Trembling, Osawa hurried to his computer. He opened the Uwa virus folder on his monitor. Within were images showing the stages of the virus's propagation. He double-clicked to magnify the first image. The Reaper's sickles were interlocked with one another. He clicked on the next image. And further out propagation, the Uwa virus looked less like a sickle, more a sort of insectoid larva. Next was the final image. Interlocked into a single mass, the Uwa virus vaguely resembled a sinister, many-petaled sunflower. It took a mere 12 hours for the pathogen to develop to this point to begin its hideous destruction of the human body. Hitomi's infection sample was still in the state showing its first image. There was still a chance to save her. Osawa slumped back in his chair, huddling in on himself. He had no choice. There was only one way to save Hitomi. He would have to administer the nearly completed antiviral. Using the antiviral without official approval was a grievous violation of company policy. Acting against company rules and regulations, Akoshi Pharmaceutical prohibits leaking work-related information to outsiders. In the case of a major violation, not only can the violator be fired, but the company may also seek indemnities. Still, Osawa didn't have time to get the higher-ups to approve a clinical trial. He might be punished severely for it, but this was his only option. His daughter's life was at stake. But there's also another, even bigger hurdle in his way. The antiviral drug was stored in the deepest recesses of the biochemical research building. A high-intensity X-ray scanner was set up at the entrance to the storage area. This made it impossible for him to take research materials out. X-ray, a type of radiation also referred to as Roentgen rays, with a shorter wavelength than UV light, but a longer wavelength than gamma rays. Because X-rays can penetrate many objects with little absorption or scattering, they can be used to create images of internal structures. Hospitals, for example, use X-ray technology to examine the insides of patients' bodies, while security personnel use it to scan luggage at airports and to search for bombs. Well, if he couldn't get the antiviral out of there, he'd just have to bring Hitomi in. A course of action quickly took shape in his mind. First, he needed to slip out of the general research building. He would then head to the biochemical research facility, show his ID card to the guard at the front gate. ID card, identification card. Many facilities that carry out highly classified research assign different levels of security clearance to individual researchers, and only those with suitable clearance, as indicated by their ID cards, are admitted to the restricted areas. Development of more advanced technologies, such as electronic ID tags, are replacing older barcode-type entry cards. Oh man, look at this. This is fancy. After passing through a lobby under the watchful gaze of several security cameras, he'd reach an elevator at the end of the hall that went directly to the storage section. This elevator required an ID card scan to operate. Getting a real spy mission going on over here. It would take about 20 seconds to get down to the first basement level and arrive at the entrance to the storage area. Finding an excuse to get Hitomi that far ought to be doable. If a security guard got suspicious, Osawa could say it was for a top-secret hematology experiment, and the guard would probably believe him. The problem was what came after. Getting into the storage area itself required fingerprint authentication from both Osawa and Tanaka. This meant he couldn't possibly get to the antiviral without Tanaka's cooperation. Desperate with uncertainty, Osawa called up Tanaka. He frantically explained the situation. Understood, Tanaka replied. We need to get her to this drug as soon as possible. If the company finds out about this, you'll be held accountable for violation of corporate policy along with me. Are you sure you're okay with that? What are you talking about? Hitomi's life is more important than company policy. Tanaka spoke without hesitation. Osawa felt an immense surge of gratitude for his assistant. So if Tanaka has been in on it this whole time, then they knew that they would have to take this course. So that's why Tanaka's so gung-ho about like, yeah, of course I'll help you with this, because he's enabling them to get the antiviral into Hitomi's blood. I have to say I'm deeply moved by your determination, Tanaka added. Moved? Whatever for? You really are worried about Hitomi. Osawa's gratitude faded. What are you talking about? Of course I am. My apologies, it's just that putting your career on the line for something so personal is what? It's not like me? No, well, yes. I'm sorry. Tanaka's voice sounded colored with embarrassment. Just what sort of person do you think I am? Osawa resisted the urge to ask the question out loud. A short time later, Osawa and Tanaka stood before the door to the secure storage area. The security guard had let them in without the slightest suspicion. Osawa pressed his index finger to the fingerprint scanner first. Accepted. He realized he'd been holding his breath as his authorization finally went through. Half a moment later, Tanaka touched his own finger to the scanner plate. Accepted. Excuse me. Authorized personnel only. The lock released with an audible clang and the heavy door opened. Osawa hurried to retrieve the antiviral. As he picked up a small vial, he had a sudden realization. They were finally going to use the drug in a human test. His fatherly wish to cure Hitomi was overlaid by an intense rush of curiosity, the researcher's drive to discover his results. Hurry. I need to hurry. I need to administer the antiviral as soon as possible. Osawa could hardly fend off his excitement. For the course of the next few hours following the injection, the UA virus would be eradicated from Hitomi's body. There had been some fever and some cramping and temporary side effects, but the DDS had done a spectacular job of stomping out the virus. The drug delivery system, also known as smart drug delivery, the ability to target a specific region of the body with a specific drug, has momentous implications for the future of medicine. DDS technology is currently being tested extensively around the world. I know they're doing that a lot for chemotherapy now also, to try to alleviate some of the side effects of attacking the whole body. In saving his daughter's life, Osawa had proven the value of his research. If he had been asked which made him happier, he would have been hard-pressed to give an answer. Afterwards, he asked Hitomi where she could have become infected, but she had no idea. He explained the need for secrecy and strictly forbade her telling anyone else what had happened. Now a week had passed since Osawa gave the drug to Hitomi. He had been conducting checks and had discovered that the DDS had not broken down, but remained in Hitomi's bloodstream. Extracting the DDS was a simple matter, requiring just a small blood sample from around the nape of the neck. Excuse me. The DDS tends to linger in the nape of the neck because of the lymph nodes located there. These lymph nodes identify viruses that invade the body as foreign substances to be attacked, but they are not always able to overcome particularly powerful pathogens. In such cases, the virus propagates rapidly inside of them. Once the patient has been treated, the antiviral will seek out the virus and accumulate there as well. So now they could just steal it from her blood. The DDS itself is simply the delivery system for the antiviral drug. Residual amounts of the antiviral itself stayed behind within the cells. The materials used to create the DDS must, as a matter of course, cause minimal or no harm to the human body. Ideally, rather than accumulate inside the body, DDS substances would either be digested or absorbed or excreted. Because the antiviral must remain in the body for as long as the virus is active, however, a very careful balance must be struck between persistence and dissipation. Yeah, that's true. Using the DDS, it was possible to extract those minuscule amounts from cells in a blood sample. It might take considerable time, but sufficiently detailed analysis could allow for the antiviral drug itself to be reconstructed. Osawa felt a chill as he contemplated the situation. The kidnappers had known how tough security was at the lab, so they'd come up with an idea of using a human vessel to get what they needed from within. By infecting Hitomi with the UA virus, they'd ensure that she received the antiviral, that she'd have it in her blood. If Tanaka was working with the kidnappers, that explained why he'd been so cooperative about the fingerprint scanner. Yeah, like I said. Damn it! Osawa shouted. He clutched his head in his hands. Tanaka had been his partner and trusted confidant for years. Osawa refused to believe he'd been betrayed like this. The front door chime sounded. Mr. Osawa, Kajiwara called out, it appears you have a visitor. Can you handle that? And our visitor is Minorikawa. So now we're not being arrested, so we can continue Minorikawa's story. Yay! Whew, that's heavy. Heavy stuff going on. Here we go. Spotted nameplate that read Osawa. Kenji Osawa, huh? The name nagged him. Okay, so we'd seen this already. He walked up to the gate and pressed the button for the intercom. Even the little chime... Okay. Sorry, I'm just holding down the button. There was no response. He looked at his watch. Yeah, he had to make a choice. We're gonna wait a bit longer. Just 5 more minutes. A woman's voice came through the intercom. Who is it? It's Minorikawa. Where would I know you from, Mr. Minorikawa? Oh, you know, here and there. There's only one Minorikawa, really. I don't have time for such nonsense. Please be on your way. I'm not going anywhere until I can get an interview. Interview? Who are you with? The woman's tone had changed now. Maybe Minorikawa could simply talk his way through this. This is a piece for 4-star general gossip. Ah, perfect. I've been wanting to talk to them. Was this one of Miss Midoriyama winners? Or perhaps it was the girl's mother eager to boast about her daughter's achievement. I assume you're familiar with defamation of character, the woman said. Huh? What are you talking about? Article 230 of the Penal Code of Japan defines it as any attack against a person's reputation or societal standing. It's a very serious crime. I know what it is, Minorikawa said. What's your point? He had a bad feeling about this. Why discuss libel laws right before an interview? Oh, I'm not letting you get away with telling me you've forgotten. I wonder if you'll remember once I bring up charges. Her tone is common level, but laced with malice. You're talking nonsense, lady. Are you the mother? I've got business with your daughters. Put one of them on the line. Nonsense? The woman's wrath radiated from the intercom. It's your 4-star general gossip that specializes in nonsense. Her voice was so loud that it was cracking. Detectives, arrest this man! He's a criminal! Huh, detective, huh? You don't really think I'd fall for that, do you, lady? Just who do you think I am? I'm Minorikawa. He crossed his arms and struck a defiant pose. Whoops. Then the front door opened up and several men came trotting out. Sir, one of the men said, we'd like to ask you a few questions. At the word sir, the man flashed his badge and Minorikawa turned to run on reflex. He hadn't thought she'd actually send detectives after him. Just what the hell had Heaven Publishing done to her? Never mind, he needed to get out of here. He couldn't afford to get arrested right now. Oh. Yikes, poor guy. Hell with it, you abducted that girl, didn't you? Detective, you keep asking me the same question over and over, and I'll keep on asking until you get me the truth. Look, ask all you want, but I can't tell you what I don't know. Let's go back to the beginning, shall we? Oh, cut the crap, I don't have time for your games. As a matter of fact, you have plenty of time, I can assure you of that. Stubborn detective flashed him a grin. I can keep doing this for days if that's what it takes to get you to confess. Oh, so this is a bad ending for us, huh? So the interrogation went on for hours. In the end, once his innocence had finally been established, Minorikawa was finally released. He wrote a scathing indictment on his experience. The report shook up the system in a major way. But that's another story for another day. Yeah, okay, so we have to continue with, Osawa's path. Minorikawa was arrested for a crime that had nothing to do with. The woman he talked to must really, really hate 4-star general gossip. Clearly had no hope of getting anywhere with her, but maybe there's someone more understanding who might answer the intercom instead. Okay, so I have to go to, oh, it was right over here, Osawa's thing, and not do the jump. Okay, it appears you have a visitor. Can you handle that? Who could it possibly be now of all times? You deal with it? No, we're going to drag ourselves to our feet. Alright, with a sigh, Osawa dragged himself to his feet. He stumbled wearily back to the living room, where investigators were staring at the intercom monitor with concern. The intercom's hidden camera showed a man with an unsettling grin posed intimidatingly outside the front gate. Osawa didn't recognize him. "Yes, who is it?" he asked guardedly through the intercom. "It's Minorikawa." "Where might I know you from, Mr. Minorikawa?" "Oh, you know, here and there. I mean, there's only one Minorikawa, really. Are you playing games with me?" "I don't have time for that. Please, just open up." "There's no way I'm letting you in," Osawa said. The nonsensical badgering continued. "Look, just hold your horses. I'm here for an interview. You got that?" "An interview?" "That's right. It's a piece for 4-Star General Gossip." The name of the magazine brought up an unpleasant memory. "Oh, right! This is the gossip rag that had run the article about his political marriage. Yeah, this kind of ruined our life." "Wait, this is for one of those kinds of articles?" "What do you mean, those kinds of articles? I'm just looking for an interview." The man's tone was high-handed and belligerent. "Like hell you are. I'm not talking to anyone from the gossip. You're not the one I'm here to talk to. I want to interview your twin daughters." "My daughters?" "I understand they won a shared prize for a beauty contest at Midoriyama Academy. If you wouldn't mind my interviewing them, Furious, Osawa cut off the intercom. This is no time to be indulging someone else's nonsense. "Hey, what gives?" The man is shouting so loud his voice carried past the gate through the front door. "I'm begging out here on my hands and knees!" He wasn't actually on his hands and knees, so Osawa could see that clearly through the intercom monitor. "If your daughters aren't home, can you at least tell them I want to get in touch with them?" Mr. Osawa, Kajiwara said, frowning. "This isn't a good time to have someone drawing attention to your home." "All right, I'll get rid of him." Osawa hurried out of the house, confronting Minorikawa through the front gate. The journalist had that tenacious look that immediately marked him as a member of the media. "Give me your business card," Osawa said. "I'll have them get in touch with you later." He took Minorikawa's card and then went right back inside. No, let's jump back to Minorikawa. No, we can't? Okay, never mind. Right in the trash. Back in the study, Osawa tossed Minorikawa's business card into the trash. Unable to think of what else to do, he tried the internet fortune teller again. He got the same "you're a very work-minded person" result a second time. If you don't get over your indifference to the world might start to harbor quite a grudge. My indifference to the world around me, huh? The truth was that even with his closest companions, even with Tanaka for instance, his relationship had always been strictly a matter of business. He'd never really taken it upon himself to get to know Tanaka as a person, and that was pretty much the case for everyone he knew. He harbored no interest in other people. He had no concern for his fellow man. That had made himself abundantly clear when he received a microscope as a birthday present way back in first grade. Even now he still remembered the shock he'd felt when he looked through that lens for the first time. He discovered a new, almost infinite world hidden in the midst of one he'd always thought was too small. By comparison, the real world seemed bland and ugly. Wherever he looked, wherever he went, he had to contend with tedium. It hadn't taken long for him to become more charmed by the world under his microscope than the one around him. It was like a calm, quiet little seaside, a beach where he could just sit and stare at the waves. He wanted to stay immersed in that world forever and ever. Before he knew it, he was an adult, and then a husband, and then a father. The people around him thought him an odd fellow, but he hadn't let that change the way he lived his life. And this now was the result. He hadn't been betrayed by Tanaka. He didn't know Tanaka well enough for that. Find a way to connect more deeply with the people around you and start living a better life before it's too late. He'd been betrayed by himself. Just do that and you're sure to have a wonderful future ahead. Osawa picked up his cell phone and dialed Tanaka's number. I had tried calling him repeatedly and hadn't gotten through. It was doubtful he'd pick up. Still, Osawa had to try. The phone rang several times. He'd listened grimly to the empty mechanical sound, preparing himself for disappointment. "What is it?" Tanaka's voice had sounded coldly in Osawa's ear. "What is it?" The tension was electric. Well, we're at a keep out over here. I'm gonna take a short break, just to stretch my legs a bit, but I'll be back in just a minute. I'm just gonna run an ad here also so that it doesn't bother us in a half hour. So yeah, be back in just a couple of minutes. Okay, ad should be over. Second. Okay. Yeah, so I guess it's time to go to Minorikawa here. There's not really much we can do. Okay, so it should be different now if we wait. Well, let's see. 5 more minutes. See, the pictures are different. Okay, where might I know you from, Mr. Minorikawa? Oh, you know, here and there. I mean, there's only one Minorikawa, really. Are you playing games with me? I don't have time for that. Please, just open up. There's no way I'm letting you in. Discussion was getting them nowhere. Minorikawa decided you have to take the direct approach. Look, just hold your horses. I'm here for an interview. You got that? An interview? He'd taken the bait. Most folks could hardly resist the word interview. That's right. It's a piece for the 4-star General Gossip. Wait, this is for one of those kinds of articles? The man sounded angry now. What do you mean, those kinds of articles? I'm just looking for an interview. Like hell you are. I'm not talking to anyone for like gossip. You're not the one I'm here to talk to. I want to interview your twin daughters. My daughters? No parent would deny their children a chance for word of their achievements to spread. I understand they won a shared prize for the beauty contest at Midoriyama Academy. If you wouldn't mind my interviewing them, intercom cut out before Minorikawa could finish. Hey, what gives? I'm begging out here on my hands and knees. He wasn't actually on his hands and knees, but whoever was on the other end couldn't see that. Yes, they could. If your daughters aren't home, then can you at least tell them I want to get in touch with them? He wasn't even using the intercom now. He's just shouting over the gate. Man stepped out the front door. Give me your business card, he said. I'll have them get in touch with you later. Man had somewhat stricken look on his face. This had to be Kenji Osawa then. Wait, hold on. Osawa? Now Minorikawa recognized him. This is Kenji Osawa, the preeminent virologist who worked for Akoshi Pharmaceutical. 4-star General Gossip had run a scandalous article on him in the past. Minorikawa remembered reading it. He held out a business card and Osawa snatched it from him. The virologist started to head back to his house. Please say that they get back to me, Mr. Osawa, Minorikawa shouted after him. Then he noticed something odd. It was the middle of the afternoon, but every window in the house had its curtains drawn. That, combined with Osawa's demeanor, set off alarm bells in Minorikawa's head. He knew he was onto something, but he couldn't linger at the Osawa residence any longer than he already had. He needed to get to the theater ASAP. He hurried back to the taxi and told Kimizuka to go. A few minutes later, the rear tire skidded sharply as the cab came to a stop beside a different curb. The trip from Shota to the theater in Sakuragaoka had taken almost no time at all. "Here we are, sir," Kimizuka announced. Well, that was fast. Still, Minorikawa was at least 5 minutes behind schedule. He had hoped he'd still be able to get an interview with Ori. So we're still stuck here. What's... So we're finished there. Okay, so I'm thinking that what we have to do is not stick around. And that frees up everybody's time over here. Let's head to our next interview instead. I'll have to come back later. Minorikawa decided he'd better get to his next interview. He started to head back towards the taxi. Suddenly, a man's voice came through the intercom. "Yes, who is it?" It sounded rather guarded. Or is it the same thing? It's Minorikawa. Okay, so this is the same stuff going on. So maybe if we jump over here? Let's see. It's the only thing I can think of. Okay, that does get rid of it. Cool. Minorikawa got his wallet out of his jacket to pay the driver. "Oh no," Kimizuka said, waving a hand. "Don't worry about the fare." Huh? Why not? Sorry. "There's still plenty left over from what you paid me earlier, sir." That's what I meant by special fare. That's right, he paid Kimizuka a whole 10,000 yen for taking him to Endo Electronics earlier. But, I mean... I'm not the sort of person to keep the change, as it were, Kimizuka said. Minorikawa felt a surge of pride at those words. "You're my kind of guy, Mr. Kimizuka." "Man of the job can always count on Hachiro Kimizuka's taxi," the driver grinned. "Now go on, go! Thank you. I have a feeling we'll meet again." What a nice guy. As Minorikawa entered the theater lobby, he saw a bunch of flower bouquets, patrons' gifts of appreciation. Among the names of the senders were celebrities he recognized. The largest of the bouquets was sent by Koichi Nakamura of the secret society Chunsoft. Okay. Alright. The next largest came from Marutaro Ishihara from the government organization Joy Art. Following that were from the actress Baruko Rose, popular scenario writer Ebisu Ipponmatsu, Tokahu Busters Bus Tours Co., Limited Bus Guide Kimiko Amo, professional baseball player Masa Narikio, the ventriloquist Chinchin, ukulele player Hawaii Matsuda, online TV critic Genzo Akitsu, and so on. I wonder if these are just friends of the writer. Evidently, the Wandering Angels were a pretty popular acting troupe. Episode 4, yay! Novice actor Takuya Amo, despite his nervousness, gave a credible performance as Shido as the production got underway. But as the show continued, his inexperience became apparent. He went on stage for the big wire action scene, having forgotten to attach himself to the rigging. Tozuka was quick to act, rushing on stage in the improvised role of assassin with an Edo accent #1, fixing a rope to Amo's back during the confusion. Continued in episode 5. People were setting out pamphlets and flyers on a nearby table. Sorry. There was a palpable tension in the air. The crew seemed skittish as they went about their work. "He's late!" someone shouted all of a sudden. There was a man over in one corner of the lobby, railing angrily to nobody in particular. "Why the hell hasn't that journalist shown up yet for the interview?" Looked like he'd been waiting on Minorikawa then. "What's his deal pulling this while we're busy?" Guess that's Shinosuke Ori. "I've been busy myself," Minorikawa said, keeping his composure. "Trust me, I know how it goes." Who the hell are you?" "I'm the guy you've been waiting for." "Mr. Ori?" The man glared at him. It's ORI, he said. Anyway, I'm Minorikawa. Sorry to keep you waiting. Though really, a short wait is a small price to pay for a chance to be interviewed by me. Well, I hope you appreciate how valuable my time is now that you're taking it, snapped ORI. Wow, someone sure has a high opinion of himself, Minorikawa replied. He marched up to ORI. Damn right I do, I'm Shinanosuke ORI. The theater man got right in Minorikawa's face. Like anyone even cares. A jolt of tension sparked between the two men. Around this time, there's a similar jolt of tension between two other people, Kenji Osawa and Mimuro Tanaka. How the heck? It's amazing how it connects these jumps. Let's go back to Osawa before these two kiss. I don't know. Osawa picked up his cell phone and dialed Tanaka's number. The phone rang several times, yeah. Praying himself with disappointment. What is it? Tanaka's voice sounded coldly in Osawa's ear. The tension was electric. Osawa felt a surge of outrage. He wanted to scream, but he took a deep breath and managed to maintain control. Tanaka? Where are you? Is Maria all right? Tanaka did not reply. The police told me. They said you were connected to the kidnapping. A soft chuckle came from the other end of the line. Ah, well, the police sure do know how to do their jobs. Tanaka's tone was unapologetic. He sounded nothing like the man Osawa thought he knew so well. Why would you do this? Money? Are you having money troubles? Money? Tanaka replied. I suppose that's part of it. Honestly, I doubt you'd understand. Do you have any idea what it's been like for me doing our research together? You're always the one who takes center stage. The fruits of our success are all yours, even though you couldn't have done any of it without me. The more he said, the more vitriol seethed into his words. I saw his hand tremble as he clutched the phone. The taker can never understand how it feels to be taken from. You've hoarded so many things to yourself, so I'm taking some of them back. And with that, he hung up. Hey, Tanaka! Wow. Osawa dialed the number again, but Tanaka didn't pick up. Dang. Osawa racked his brains, thinking back on how Tanaka had been acting earlier that day. Had there been anything unusual? Any clue at all, no matter how small? If he couldn't find some hint, maybe he'd be able to find Maria and Hitomi. That was it. I had been suspicious of Tanaka all along, so much so that she planted a bug on him hidden in a tie clip. Her suspicion must have been pretty strong. Wait, Osawa recalled what Kajiwara had said. But still, if she is that worried, giving a tie clip as a gift is a bit... The words had struck Osawa as odd when he first heard them. I had never given him a tie clip. His heart gave a heavy throb in his chest. It couldn't be. No, it was impossible. That article from 4-Star Journal Gossip crept back into his mind. The article talked about a man I had dated before she married Osawa. The man's identity was never revealed. Could it have been Tanaka? Man, what a twist that would be. You've hoarded so many things to yourself, so I'm taking some of them back. Tanaka's cold words took on a new depth of meaning. Osawa felt the foundation of his life begin to crumble. Were Tanaka and I accomplices in all this? It kind of seems like they're not, but they have enough of a relationship that, you know, something could happen. I don't know. No, wait. Just calm down. He couldn't let himself jump to conclusions. He needed to be more level-headed. Everything depended on it. If the two really were accomplices, why would I have planted a bug on Tanaka? Exactly. What purpose would that serve? What could it mean? It was no use. Osawa couldn't think of how that made sense. First thing first, he needed to establish what the relationship between I and Tanaka really was. Once he figured that out, he'd be able to get a better handle on the situation. Obviously, he couldn't just go and ask I directly. If she really were involved in all this, she certainly wouldn't tell him the truth. Oh boy. Osawa thought back to the business card he tossed in the trash. He didn't relish the thought of getting help from that scavenging hyena, but now was no time to be pecky. If he wasn't able to leave the house, he needed someone else to do the investigating for him. The freelance writer Minoru Minorikawa. He was Osawa's only hope. And we hit the to be continued here too. Dang. So now we just have Minorikawa's route then. Right? Yeah, it's interesting that this finished at 450 instead of 455, but okay. So this should just be smooth sailing for the next bit. Like anyone even cares. Jolt of tension sparked between the two men. I beg your pardon, a woman interrupted, but Mr. Orai does have a schedule to keep. And who are you, Miss Sukazawa? I'm the producer. Well, listen, Sue, I'm in the middle of an interview here. Please don't interrupt. What? That's how you conduct an interview? That's right. This is how I roll. Look, whatever. Orai growled. Let's just do this already. Fine by me. The two men sat down opposite sides of a table in the lobby, but Sukazawa spoke up again. Mr. Orai, don't forget the meeting you have after this. Yeah, handle that, would you? Minorikawa let out a derisive snort. It's like you're holding court, he said. Do people actually hang around you with that kind of attitude? You have no right to judge my acting troupe. Minorikawa straightened up in his chair, a mocking smile on his lips. Oh, so it's your acting troupe, huh? He said. Why not just play all the roles yourself? Heck, you could even be your own audience. How dare you? Orai rose to his feet and made to leave, but Sukazawa hurried him back down to his chair. Minorikawa continued as if he hadn't heard. So what is it that you do anyway? He asked. Orai raised an incredulous eyebrow. You don't know? No, why should I? You came into an interview without knowing anything about who you were interviewing? Yep. That's it! Get out! Orai roared and pointed angrily toward the exit. How dare an unmannered clod like you come in here and waste my time? Hey, who's being unmannered now? I came all the way out here to hear a story, didn't I? Why don't you get out? Minorikawa pointed at the exit as well. Why the hell should I have to leave? Orai demanded. This is my house! Theater jargon for the theater itself, especially the main auditorium. Look, just get out! This time both yelled and pointed toward the exit in unison. Sukazawa quickly interposed herself between them, forcing a smile. Gentlemen, please, calm down, she said, then turned to Minorikawa. You should be aware that Mr. Orai used to be a broadcast writer. Someone who writes for television or radio programs. A great show depends not only on the actor's performances, but on the skills of a broadcast writer. He's responsible for a lot of big hits. You don't need to mention that, Orai grumbled. Nonetheless, Sukazawa rattled off the names of several shows. Minorikawa did indeed recognize many of them. He murmured. So how come you're running a failing theater now? Failing? Orai went red in the face. I'm not wrong, am I? You're absolutely the rudest person I've ever met! What would a rank amateur like yourself know about theater? Orai's face was dark with rage, but Minorikawa didn't back down. Listen, this has nothing to do with how well your theater is or isn't doing, he snapped. The television world wouldn't accept you, so in order to retain your pride as an entertainer, you start doing theater. Isn't that so? Don't act like you know anything. I'll stake my entire life on the theater. It seemed as if Orai might throw a punch at any moment. Sure, a city theater might have seemed small time compared to TV, but you get a lot more of a response from it. Response? Oh, now that sounds interesting. Darn right, Orai exclaimed. You can see it from up on stage. The audience, you can see their faces. There's a passion in Orai's voice now. I can really feel it. When the audience is enjoying themselves, you can feel that energy. You can't get that from doing television. Thinking back on it now, my time spent working on TV. Let's see, what's a good analogy? It's like being handed a towel that's already damp. No, that's not right. Okay, so a better analogy would be... Without further preamble, Orai began talking about his tribulations back in his broadcast writer days. Minorikawa smiled inwardly. You got your interview, buddy. The interview ended promptly after 15 minutes, the time that had been promised. Both men emerged from it as if from a daze. Minorikawa found himself staring Orai in the face, shaking him by the hand. So, what kind of story did I just get? He asked, speaking half to himself. You heard about one man in his life, and I have to admit, it was a good interview. Thanks, you have my gratitude. With a satisfied smile, Minorikawa closed his notebook. Right, glad to hear that then. Orai inclined his head, looking a bit bewildered. A flustered Sukazawa interrupted. Mr. Minorikawa, wasn't this interview for a piece about the performance? Huh? Minorikawa blinked. It's just that when you were asking about Mr. Orion, not the performance itself, Tsukuzawa said. Oh, I see what you mean. Actually, I came here for a piece I'm going to be writing called Where Are They Now? Washed Up Broadcast Writers Showcase. Washed up? Orion was red in the face all over again. You bastard, how dare you! Forget everything I just told you! I do not give you my permission to use it in your magazine. You're too late! What? I've already heard your whole story. You should be grateful that I'll be writing a piece on it. You bastard! With a wild look in his eye, Ori snatched up a hammer the stage crew had left nearby. Wait! Shut up! Ori waved the hammer menacingly. But the attack came to a sudden halt as the ringtone startled him out of his fury. Hold on a moment, Minorikawa said brightly. I have to take this. He whipped out his cell phone. Hello, Minorikawa speaking. This is Osawa. Wow, he called back a lot sooner than Minorikawa had expected. Have your daughters come home then? No, actually, there's a favor I'd like to ask you. A favor? Minorikawa thought back to his visit to Osawa residence. The drawn curtains, the stricken look on Osawa's face. Minorikawa's instinct had sensed something significant going on. Apparently, getting the full story wasn't going to come without some cost. A favor, huh? Is it something urgent? I'll pay whatever I have to. I just need you to look into something as quickly as possible. His voice had the telltale desperation of a man who'd been backed into a corner. All right, Minorikawa said. I can help you out for a little while. Osawa hurriedly explained what he was after. The request was a strange one. He wanted Minorikawa to look into a scandalous article the four-star general gossip had run about him in the past. What makes this so important? Do I have to say? I mean, you're asking me to look into something without explaining anything. He eyed Ori, looking nearby with obvious irritation. Minorikawa would need to calm down the erstwhile broadcast writer, or else his interview really would be for naught. He decided to bluff both men at the same time. Let me just say one thing, he said into the phone. He made sure he spoke loud and clear so that Ori would overhear. I want to tell the world this story. No, I need to tell it. If I don't feel that way about something, no amount of money in the world will get me to write an article on it. That's my pride as a writer at work. Minorikawa could see Ori's aura rage fading as he listened. The theater man looked surprised. Whew! A great liar. Meanwhile, Osawa had decided to open up a bit. Alright, he said, I can share all the details, but... Okay, he's in a talkative mood now. Good job, Minorikawa. See, this is going fine. The power balance of the entire world might be at stake here, Osawa continued, and I mean that quite literally. I can tell you more after you're done investigating. Wait, was he serious? How could the world's balance of power hinge on looking for some alleged marital affair? It was so absurd that Minorikawa had to fight the urge to burst out laughing. A person would need to be out of his mind to believe a story like that, but Minorikawa wasn't the average person. And sometimes the truth is so ridiculous it really was stranger than fiction. Osawa wasn't lying. Minorikawa's instincts told him that much. All right, he said, I'll check the editing department's notes from back then. Minorikawa felt his excitement building. Things were really getting interesting. For the moment, he nearly forgot Toyama and his troubles. All right, and that's the end of this hour. Oh, no, not yet. Never mind. When he ended the call, Ori approached him and extended his hand. Listen, your methods might be a little extreme, but I can tell you take your pride in your work. Of course I do. I'm sorry for getting so worked up. I bet you'd write a fine article about me. So please, Mr. Minorikawa, let the world know about me and my half-lived life. Minorikawa took the offered hand and shook it. Leave it to me. Once I'm done with it, you won't just be some washed-up nobody anymore, Mr. Ori. It's Ori. Mr. Minorikawa grinned. Minorikawa rushed out of the theater. He completed all the interviews that he could get done before 4 o'clock. Now he had an hour left to write it all up to convince the folks from the loan company that the gossip could stay afloat. Ah! He let out a roar, psyching himself up for the final push. Yeah, that's quite a difference in mood from the end of the last hour. But yeah, let's see the previews for 1500 or 1400 hours. To be continued. This person also killed my friend. Shibuya is gonna die. Was this an accident or an attack? He's after Hitomi Osawa! How many hours ago was she infected? Oh, it's 15 to 16, excuse me. Right, we were just doing 1400. Okay, 15 to 16, we're getting close, we're getting close. Achievement unlocked, infection. Okay, but that is going to do it for the stream. Next time we're going to take a fresh start on 1500 hours and see where all this is going. Whew. But yeah, thank you all so very much for stopping by the stream and watching. And I hope you all have a fantastic day. Goodbye, everybody. Bye.